I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, "No, no, 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 we're going to do this." And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show.
10 people I would like to meet while cruising the U.S. That's the idea list of the day that we're looking at. And again, these idea lists are posted by anybody who wants to on notepad.com, notepd.com. We'll take our favorite idea list each day and talk about it. So this one is by Younes. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Younes, Harej, Hirej. And he is founder and CEO of Akumo Inc., AOKUMO Inc., which is a technology company based in Japan. Looks interesting. So he wanted to figure out people he would like to meet while cruising the U.S. But first, let me ask you guys, Robin, Jay, Paulo, who would you want to meet?
Okay, I want to ask you first. Like out of four of us here, you're probably the most famous. Out of four,
I don't
you
know
probably
about
meet
that.
everyone here. Like,
I don't
who
know
would
about
you
that.
want to meet?
Well, out of these people, too, it would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, first off, half the people on his list, by the way, I have met because they've all been on my podcast many times.
Right.
But we'll talk about his list in a second. Who would I want to meet
in the U.S.
in the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you ever venture out of U.S. before, but
No, I've been outside the U.S. several times.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's anybody I'd go out of my way to meet, to be honest.
They'll come to your house.
Yeah, I'm very lazy. I feel, you know what? Thanks to the podcast, I've really met, we've had like 1,200 episodes or more. I've lost count. And I've met so many people who are on lists like these. And I don't know, I kind of like just not meeting any of them anymore. So I've talked to all of them. So I've talked to everybody I wanted to meet.
Not even Obama?
Yeah, sure. It's always interesting talking to someone who's been president of the United States because, like we did meet Bill Clinton a few years ago, because they're going to have some insight into things that you have no comprehension of. Like they've seen everything in the world. But you know what? For me, like the highest goal is not a political goal, so it's not the thing I'm most fascinated with. I'm trying to think like who would I pay, for instance, to meet? There really isn't anybody on that list. Oh, you know what? And I have met this guy. I would really like to talk to Judd Apatow about comedy. He's actually agreed to come on the podcast, but he never did come on the podcast. So, but I don't know. I've talked to so many comedians. I don't really need to talk to another one about comedy. So who would, maybe if you guys say yours, I'll be inspired.
Right. What about Robin? I found Robin meets everyone too.
I
So
would
like,
I
don't
would
know.
I would pay to meet Robin. Yes.
No, I think the number one person on my list would be Thomas Sowell.
Oh, right.
So he's the economist at the Hoover Institute at Stanford.
Yeah.
Very smart. If anybody reads anything by him or watch any of his YouTube
He's
videos,
amazing.
he studied under Milton Friedman, who was obviously a Nobel Prize winner of economics, and he's like 98 years old or something,
Yeah.
and still is just as smart and lucid, or maybe even more smart than ever. And his videos are really fascinating.
So amazing. Yeah. So he's my number one, I think.
Oh. What about Paolo? Paolo, you're not from the States. You're not
Yeah,
in the
I'm not
States.
sure myself. Like
Italian,
I have to admit though, when I was about to answer, I was gonna say that I hadn't met James yet, but then I remember that I have actually met him.
And now you're on the podcast regularly.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
I feel like I would have said Gary Kasparov, the chess player, but he's been on the podcast a billion times, and I've had dinner with him
we know
and so on.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I
Wait,
think my
so-
classic answer would be probably like Elon Musk.
That would be my second, I
Ah.
think.
Oh, I
Right.
would say for me, maybe Warren Buffett would be up on my list, just because for 70 years now, just about 70 years, he's been the greatest investor on the planet. So he's got more. It's one of those cliches where he has more knowledge about investing. He's forgotten more about investing than I'll ever know by a factor of 10. And it would just be interesting to get his honest insights. But the problem with someone like that is I don't know if he actually gives his honest insights on things because, like many people in the public company world, they're limited in what they could talk about, or they have such a huge agenda. It's sometimes hard to get honest answers from people. But Elon Musk would be very interesting too.
That would definitely be hard to hear what they actually think. I think actually from this list they're mentioning Nassim Taleb, and I think it was him who said, I want that you shouldn't ask for someone for like investment advice, but you should ask them for what is currently in their portfolio, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that is the
Oh,
right
right,
answer.
yes.
Because if they believe in something, that they're going to invest in it. Someone. It's easy to if like taking his words, it's easy to say anything if you don't have skin in the game, right?
But by the way, it's interesting that you just
Right.
said that you just said that last sentence, because here's my thing about Nassim Taleb. First off, he's been on the podcast. He was a great guest. He was one of the first guests back in 2014. I wrote an email to him in 2002 asking if he had time to meet. I just wanted to meet him. And he did respond and said, sure. But then I never responded to him until 2014, like 12 years later. And then he came on the podcast. But you just need to know the titles of his books. You don't even have to read his books. Because like you just said, Paulo, he wrote a book called Skin in the Game. I don't have to read the book anymore. Like that title so accurately describes the concepts in the book that's all you need to know is the title. Like if you don't, and the concept is if you don't have skin in the game, if you're not personally either invested or have some thing that you're sacrificing, then whether the game is investing or you're talking about home ownership or whatever, you're not going to really know about the domain and you're not a reliable source of information. So like, for instance, he says journalists don't have skin in the game, but generals do. So I'd rather listen to a general talking about military stuff than a journalist. Same thing with stocks. I would rather listen to an investor than a journalist who doesn't have any skin in the game. So that's a classic example. And his book, Anti-Fragile, is, of course, that it's not just good to be. He thinks most people and most of the world are fragile. Like if a bad thing happens, they fall apart. And people have often said persistence or resilience is the opposite of fragility. Like you keep going at it even when bad things happen. But his point with Anti-Fragile is that something should become stronger when bad things happen. And so that's what Anti-Fragile's about.
Interesting. Well, so I'm Asian. I'm in the States. The person that I want to meet, I don't know. I just look at my skin. I felt like I'm Asian.
You have skin in the game.
Yeah. The person that I want to meet is Trump.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to talk to him. Like, oh yeah, what's up? It would be funny if I just walk up to me, hey, what's up? And I see what he's gonna respond.
Well, how do you think he would respond?
I don't know. He just look at me. I don't know. That's why I want to
He
meet him.
probably
Like,
would be nice.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's gonna be nice or whatever, but like, or he would just nod. You know, he could be just nodding. I mean, like, you sometimes just want to talk to like, like the person.
Okay,
The
if you could ask him a policy question though, or something about his presidency, what would you ask him?
I don't know if I would ask him about anything about policy because like I say, I don't have skin in the game in politics. I would just I'm just curious how his mind works, like how his thinking works.
You can
Like
read his
how like
books
if he
and start from there,
oh
right?
yeah
You know,
his
the
books.
art of the deal or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
thing is, it's different it's different like reading a book that someone written than like sitting there and just have like a casual conversations. Like we could be in t-shirt, we're just in a locker room and just talk about like drinking tea or whatever. Just talk about stuff.
I wonder how he was able to, regardless of what you think of him, that person has gone through more personal attacks than anybody, and
Yeah.
and
Talk
he could
about a tough skinned person.
and maybe some of the attacks are true and maybe some are false, but like how did he personally or psychologically deal with all of that while he
Yeah.
was trying to be president? Now, maybe he didn't do too well, and that's why he kind of like, I don't know, flipped out after the election and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, it's just interesting to see because like sometimes you just want to talk to people that one you either don't agree or you're just fascinated about like okay they got so much hate, like how are they doing right now and what are they thinking, because like it's too common to say like I want to meet Jet Li, I want to meet Jackie Chan and stuff like that.
well, I don't even know what we've had like, actors and actresses on the show, and sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it's not, but it usually has nothing to do with their act. All you know about them from their acting is what the person they pretend to be is like.
Yeah,
You don't know what Jackie
Oh,
Chan's
yeah.
like. You just know that whoever he's pretending to be, you just know what that character is like.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main. That's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and or cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com. You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his. You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy.
I'd be curious to find out what Larry David is like.
Oh, that would be funny, yeah.
Yeah, Larry David's a good one. And again, like Larry David is interesting because if you read about him, first off, if you see him on TV, he always comes across as this like really obnoxious, almost hateful type of person who's very funny. But in real life, I don't think he's quite like that. I think that's a little bit like him, but I think he actually is a good leader of people. I mean, he ran the most successful TV show ever, Seinfeld, and he kept all the actors motivated throughout. And obviously, Curb Your Enthusiasm, everyone enjoys working on that, who I've ever spoken to. I mean, we've had a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm actors on the show, and they all think Larry's amazing. So he is a good leader of people, interestingly. So yeah, he'd probably be interesting to meet. But, again, like Jay, we've tried to get many people on the podcast, and I can't think of anyone that I'm like dying right now. Like my life is over if I can just get this one person.
That's why I'm so
like
often
that.
on the podcast now.
Exactly. We've
Right?
it's true. I've run out of the Obamas of the world that I really want to talk to. So, although I would want to talk to Barack Obama, that's for sure.
I mean, I reached out to him, and the PR person is like, no, he's not doing any media interview. And then 2 weeks later, you see Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen's podcast.
Barack
They
Obama's
both
doing a
has
podcast with Bruce Springsteen.
Yes.
Well, see, he's just having fun though. That's just it. It's like an ex-president can just have fun, except for except for
What are you
Trump.
gonna
He
talk
can't really have fun right now.
Yeah.
He's not really having fun. But anyway, this guy Eunice Harej, who made this list from Tokyo to New York, 10 people I would like to meet while cruising the U.S. He says he'd like to meet Nassim Taleb, take a walk with him.
Yep.
He says Michelle Obama, Adam Grant, who's been on the podcast. He's a really great writer, a business writer and psychologist. Ryan Holiday, who's been on the podcast a gazillion times. Tim Ferriss, who's been on the podcast, and I've been on his. And dinner with Will Smith would be interesting. He says that. And Mark Manson, who's been on the podcast, wrote Will Smith's autobiography. So he's described what it's like to have dinner with Will Smith. He says Will is like amazingly charismatic. Like he makes you feel, and people say this about Bill Clinton too, he makes you feel like you're the most important person in the world.
Yeah.
And I always find that interesting. Like when we met Bill Clinton, first off, Clinton was talking a lot with Robin, and it was at this like poker charity event. And I was sitting at the poker table, and for the first time, like in an hour, I finally got a decent hand. I got dealt a pair of jacks. And for like, I kept looking for like 20 minutes. This is when I first met Robin. And so, or like a few weeks later, and I kept looking over. Clinton was like getting closer and closer talking to Robin. And so I didn't even play my pair of jacks. I flew it into the car, into the pile of cards and left the hand, and just to kind of see what was going on over there. And Bill, it's really true. Bill Clinton does make you feel like you're the most important person in the room. Like he kind of talks very softly, so you sort of have to lean in to hear him. And he starts saying things like, you remind me of my friend Bubba back home. Like he's like a brother to me. And by the time the conversation's over, you're really thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, am I now best friends with Bill Clinton? Like, are we gonna talk to each other on the phone every day or two? Like, what's happening here? and he does make you feel like suddenly like really close to him.
I was just talking to him about Ghana and the roads and the World Bank and how horrible it is and how, they only create the roads for the, the cocoa and the all of those things, and all the food is rotting up in the north and the food can't get down to the people. I had a whole thing I was talking to him about. I'm sure he was like, huh, okay. So
Yeah,
if you want to know what I was talking
you-
about, that's
I
what
have
I
a
was
feeling he
talking
was-
about.
Okay, now you do know a lot about those things, and so this is not a discredit to you, but I don't think that's what he was interested at all when he was talking to you. Like,
Well, yeah, I have a funny story. Like before I knew I'm gonna meet President Clinton, my ex-girlfriend had to prep me things not to say. So
Like what?
I can say intern,
oh,
and then I can
oh yeah,
you
don't say
know.
the word intern,
around.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Oh,
because Monica Lewinsky. Who,
okay.
Yeah.
didn't we, or weren't we going to have Monica Lewinsky on the podcast at one point?
No. I think she was, but then it didn't work out. That was pre-pandemic. I think 2 years pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
Huh.
Yeah.
she had a book coming out or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's right. Jay, you were there too. Like you met Bill
Yeah.
Clinton.
Yeah, like he is great. Like, but he is very charming. So I think it's some type of like skill set that, I don't think I
Remember,
can
great
ever
and
have.
charming are two different things.
And also from
Let's
this
just be
conversation,
clear.
it seems like it's only the guys that are getting charmed, and Robin was quite indifferent. So there's something wrong.
Robin's like, oh, I talked to
You
him
know?
about Africa, and I'm like, I'm his best
know.
friend. Oh
like,
my gosh, I'm his best friend.
I mean, I was talking about some serious issues that I have. And he
Right.
was listening. Anyone that will
jumped right
listen
in
to
there.
my problems that I have about the world, no one really cares.
Right. Well, I care. I care about your problems with the world. I have
Anyway,
to. I have to check to make sure they don't include me.
I'm surprised that he didn't. I mean, Eunice didn't include Bill Clinton in there. I felt like if Clinton were to do like a master class in charisma, I think they would do well.
Yeah, but
No, but here's the problem. There's too many.
there's some
No,
bad
actually,
stuff that
the
he's,
Clinton Foundation hasn't been doing well lately. I think
Oh.
in part because of his
Well,
ties with Jeffrey Epstein. Like
yeah.
you saw,
I mean,
saw
that's
Jeffrey Epstein's plane
pretty
like 30
serious.
times.
Forgot about that. Oh.
So
Yeah.
there's a whole slew of
Some
people
bad
brought down
stuff.
there. And the thing is, we'll never really know. So the best strategy is to just not include, that's not your circle, is the circle of people around Jeffrey Epstein are not in anyone else's circle anymore for good reason.
Yes.
So,
And also,
but
one thing.
all right. So
One thing
oh,
I
go
found
ahead.
interesting about this list is it was not only, who would you like to meet, but for each one there's an activity. For someone
would
it's
you
a
do?
walk,
Yeah,
for someone
I
it's,
think that is so
and
cool.
what's interesting is that for James, he chose a brunch. I'm not sure what screams brunch about James, but yeah.
You know what? Because
yeah.
Because
I saw
James-
that.
James
Yeah,
loves
actually.
bacon.
It's true.
It's
I
true.
do love bacon, but like everybody else, like a walk with Nassim Taleb, that does seem the sort of thing you would do with Nassim Taleb.
It's good that he didn't do the 9-hole golf game with you, James.
Right, but he did a 9-hole golf game with Michael Jordan. Although he better leave his wallet at home because Michael Jordan maybe is a heavy gambler on golf. A Tesla ride with Elon Musk.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Afternoon tea with Kate Blanchett. I guess I could see her as an afternoon tea sort of person.
Well, you know what? I think this list is great. But
What about like
if-
playing chess with James or playing ping pong with James? Like something I enjoy
Well,
doing.
because they know he's gonna lose. But you know what would be really interesting if he flipped the list, right? So like rather than have a walk with Tim Ferriss, maybe Tesla ride with Tim Ferriss, maybe a Tesla ride with Elon Musk, maybe a Ford ride with Elon Musk. You want to keep them on the toe and comfortable, so that you will have more provoking conversations.
Well, nobody should want a Tesla ride with me because they would die pretty quickly.
I know.
I don't even drive. So
That's an AI function, so
yeah.
automatic driving.
But look, I challenge anyone else. Log on to notepd.com and tell us the people you would like to meet. Maybe we can make some dreams come true. Who knows?
Yeah.
We know a lot of people, the whole list of people who have been on the podcast. And just so people know, notepad.com is how I track my own 10 ideas a day, which I've been writing about for 2 decades maybe. and I write about always how it helped me and gave me opportunities and made me more creative and so on. And people kept asking me to make a website where you could not only write your ideas, but if you make them public, you could search people's ideas, all the public idea lists. You could search my ideas and read my idea list every day because I try to post every day and check it out. But in particular, this idea list is 10
Yeah, I love
people
it.
you would meet zooming around the US.
Yeah, it's great.